Hello, everybody. My name is Enesse. I am here for WCEG Talk Radio, Millennial Talk 2.0, Multilingual Intergenerational Conversations. I want to first say that the views and opinions of this host and our guests will not reflect those of WCEG Talk Radio. I also wanted to start by saying a special thank you to the Artist Shop for helping me to step out in my purpose, as well as WCEG Talk Radio and Rich Goddess for this hat. I am Enesse, or Senora Enesse, as my students call me. I am going to use today to talk about who I am so you can know who is hosting this show, because, well, I believe that's very important to know who you're watching. I am very excited. So let me explain a little bit about what you can expect with not only this episode, but this show in general. I am multilingual. At this point, I only know English, Spanish, French, and sign language. I will be learning some more languages, but right now, those are the ones I'm focused on getting better. So I'm Enesse with Enesse Reviews, where we are connecting comunidades con comunicación. And that means we're connecting communities with communication. So that means we work with other people to break those language barriers so that we can actually solve those real big world problems so that the future generations get to benefit from the fruits of our labor. So as a multilingual intergenerational global community liaison, I work with people of different ages and backgrounds so that we can solve those problems. Specifically, I work with business owners. I work with young women in transition coming out of high school, going into the real world, going into motherhood, and going into whatever it is that next stage of their life is. So I work with those women. And then I also work with families so that I help them learn how to raise multilingual kids. So what I'm about to do has been ill-advised by the production team because they don't understand why I have to do it the way I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm switching to sign language. If you can safely watch this video, I would love for you to look at your screen because it's very important for me to not talk while I sign because I am hearing, and this is not my first language. Sign language is not my first language. So I have to make sure that I translate what I am intending to say properly, and that requires me to turn my voice off. And turning my voice off will mean that you won't hear anything for a few minutes or however long it takes for me to explain it. But I will come back. And when I do come back, I will come back in Spanish. I've already given you a synopsis of what I will be discussing. But what I will be doing after I speak Spanish is I'm going to come back in English and explain anything that you may have missed. But also, I'm going to give you this moment. If the silence is uncomfortable for you, I want you to think about how often you may experience meeting a deaf person and they do not have access to what's going on in that situation. So they may be going to a fast food restaurant, whereas you have the opportunity to pull up around the drive-through and talk through the machine, but they're forced to come inside even when it's raining, even when their kids are sleeping in the car and they just want to get a meal. So this may be uncomfortable for you to hear silence on the radio or on the screen. It may be really difficult for you. But think about how many times the deaf community does not have access. And I just want to give the opportunity for you to understand that it is easier for hearing people to learn how to sign. It's easier for us to learn how to sign than for us to force them to learn how to hear or force them to read our lips. So even in biblical days, there were deaf people. And even with there being deaf people in the biblical days, I want you to understand that in all of this time, there aren't enough people who sign. We still need interpreters. There's a shortage. And while I was in college, they told us that there will never be enough interpreters for the deaf community. So in doing that, God showed me something that even if there aren't enough interpreters, If everyone had a basic conversational understanding of sign language, the world would be slightly better, at least for the deaf community. And if we give them access, the same way Black people have been fighting for access for so long, to be treated as not only equals, but given the equal opportunities, if we give them that same chance, if we give the Spanish speaking community the same chance that we as Black people have been fighting for, if all three of those communities, as well as the LGBT communities, if all four of those communities unite, the world would be forever changed. And that is the vision that God has given me, that we are the generation that will pivot from the struggles of separation and segregation and discrimination. We're the generation that changes things so that not only my daughter, but my daughter's kids get to experience what it's like to feel safe walking down the street to go get candy from a candy store, or going to visit their grandparents and being able to just walk and do that. So I am about to switch to sign language. So please bear with me. But if the silence is too uncomfortable, I would like for you to go to WCEG Talk Radio on YouTube and subscribe to their channel. We're available on 12 platforms for podcasts. We're also available on the Google Play app and the App Store. So please check us out on your Roku if you have it, and use this moment of silence to reflect. And then I'll be back. Okay. Hola, mis amigos. Soy Enesse de Enesse Reviews y yo trabajo con los dueños de negocios porque es importante que la gente suya y mía trabajan juntos, no solamente la gente de negocios, los dueños y los jefes, pero también la gente, las familias, las mujeres jóvenes, porque vamos a cambiar el mundo para que nuestras gentes puedan sentir más seguras, lo siento. Pero también trabajo con las mujeres jovenitas, o no jovenitas, pero tienen que tener más, 18 y más de años, porque si tienen 18 o más de años, pueden trabajar conmigo a devenirse a una persona nueva, quién es mejor que lo que está en este momento. Pues soy una compañera de éxito y yo uso el dinero que recibo de los dueños de negocios porque pueden escribir por los impuestos, pueden escribir como write-off, pero uso el dinero a apoyar a esas mujeres de venirse como la mejor versión de sí mismo. Y también uso un parte del dinero recibo de los dueños de negocios a ayudar a los niños por el programa que llamó Lucitas. Es importante que ayudo a estos niños porque si ayudo a estos niños del sistema de foster care, es importante que sientan mejor porque se mudan mucho más que nosotros. Se mudan mucho a diferentes lugares y si pueden hablar con las manos del idioma de las señas para la gente sorda americana, también pueden hablar español, pueden buscar amigos en cualquier lugar viven. Y también ayudo a las familias a entender cómo enseñar a sus hijos y por sus mismos cómo enseñar los idiomas diferentes que he hecho o he dicho. Es importante porque los niños necesitan trabajar con otras culturas, a tener las soluciones mundiales a los problemas mundiales. Para mí es importante que trabajamos juntos porque hay muchas fronteras, pero las fronteras son hechos de los hombres, no son hechos de Dios. Y si no nos importan las fronteras, cuidamos a nuestros vecinos. Pues llamo un grupo por escuela casera de mi hija, llamo el grupo el barrio y puede ser vecino de nuestro barrio, no depende de dónde vives, pero si puedes tener el internet, puedes hacerlo. Y voy a cambiar a inglés. Hi, okay, so I'm back in English and I may have been a little nervous, but that was more, I'm excited, nervous. I wanted to explain a little bit about what I was saying. So yes, I do work with business owners and I explained that I use the money that I receive from multilingual ads from the business owners to fund a program for young ladies who are 18 to 24, not as their mentor, but as their accountability partner. I call it my pimp program because I am a pimp. I know you're thinking something that I'm a personal improvement and motivational partner. That's what pimp stands for. So I partner with these young ladies so that they can become the best next version of themselves. And if they can put forward their best next version of themselves at any given moment, they feel like they can confidently navigate our local communities. And when they confidently navigate our local communities, that boosts their self-esteem and it also inspires them to treat others with kindness. And when they treat others with kindness, that has a ripple effect. So you know how they say a smile is contagious? This is a smile in action. And so that's why I work with young women. I actually wrote a book called The Audacious Mentality Needed to Get My Life Together. And that book is available on my website. It's www.nsrllc.biz. And it's available at the top. This book is the book I use to work with those young ladies. This book is the book I use to work with those young ladies so that we can help them become their best next selves, so that it has a positive effect on all of our local communities. And with so many positive effects on our local communities, it allows us to have a global impact. So that's why I call myself a multilingual intergenerational global community liaison. And so I also work with those business owners in providing funding for a third program, which is a subset of how to raise multilingual kids. The subset is called Lucitas. The Lucitas program is where I work with kids who are in the foster care system to learn Spanish and to learn sign language, so that wherever they move, however many times they move, they can make at least one friend. And I know personally how hard it is to make friends. And I mean, if I'm going to be honest, if you're here watching my first episode, I want to first of all say thank you. But second of all, I want to be honest about who I am and how I arrived to this point. It wasn't by accident, coincidence, or change or chance. It is because God gave me the opportunity to feel alone and depressed, and as a child and growing up in a large family, but still feeling like a black sheep. And I said in my book, this one line won me a scholarship to study abroad in Spain for 6 weeks. But I was so honest with that. I said, I am the black sheep of my black family, because no one else in my family really speaks Spanish or use sign language, or listen to country music. It's so many things that I felt like was isolating me. So my siblings could hang out with each other and my parents have each other, and then it was just me. And in my room, I would spend hours just with Telemundo on and letting it play the telenovelas, las noticias. And so I didn't know then that I was just building my listening skills in Spanish, but I did learn a lot from that, because people would be like, what does this mean? What's happening in the show? And so when they would ask what's happening in the show, I would just make something up based off of what I saw. So I might not have knew everything, but I knew enough to guess. So I'm thankful for that journey, but it was very hard then. And so when I got into middle school, I started learning Spanish. I started, so the first year I learned Spanish, I slept through the whole class. And then the second year, my Spanish teacher said that I was in the top 2 of my 8th grade class. Of all the 8th graders she was teaching, I was in the top 2. I'm not saying I'm number 2, but I was in top 2, and I got invited to participate at the West Metro Forum in Douglas County. And when I participated, I got the top award for my competition level. I was in superior in 8th grade. And at that point, I was not confident in my ability to speak Spanish, because I was so used to being bad at everything else that everyone else was good at. At that point, I really didn't like myself. It was a lot of low self-esteem issues. I was being bullied at home. I was being bullied at school. I was being bullied after school. So when I went into Spanish and I was complimented for something, I was just like, well, I might as well keep up something good. So I went into high school, but before I went into high school, I had to interview and test into the IB program. That's the International Baccalaureate program. It is, the way I describe it, is like AP and honors on steroids. It's basically college prep. You can get college credits, but when you go through the program, and it's hard on it every day, because you're actually like on college level kind of mindset without very much prep. They give you the option to take a second language, history, or econ, or art. And I'm not good at art or like the other stuff. So the other option was learning another language, and that was French. So I started learning French around 10th grade. Yeah, I started learning French in 10th grade. And when I was learning French, at the same time, the opportunity arose for me to start learning sign language. And so I'll shout out. So I wanted to shout out those 3 people, but there's also someone else. I forgot your sign name. I'm sorry, I forgot your sign name. It's been a long, long time. Okay, so I'm shouting out my first 4 teachers. Oh, and also, because God used them. At that point, I was going through so much at home. I just did not want to be there. I wanted to be anywhere but there, to be honest. I participated in 11 clubs. I was the president of 7 clubs. And of those 7 clubs, one of them wasn't technically a club. I was the football manager. If you were at school at Douglas County High School and you knew about the football team, you knew I was a boss at a very young age, like maybe 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. I was bossing around not only upperclassmen who were football players, but some of the coaches came to me for help, and like I would be like, oh, that's already done. I already did that. So, and then I worked with an awesome PT. His name was John Copeland. I'm gonna shout you out because even when I didn't have the father figure I needed in home, he was home, but even when I didn't have the father figure I needed at home, God blessed me with several father figures in my life that I wish my brothers would have had access to. But I'm grateful that I was able to have access to John Copeland Sr. or the second, because he taught me a lot and even walked me down the football field on senior night. So I am very grateful because it was him and also Coach Walters, Coach Buddy Walters from Douglas County High School. This isn't about them, but it is because without them stepping in and saying, hey, Coach Walters told me if you start quitting now, you're going to quit for the rest of your life. And that stuck with me. I stuck through IB, even though there were several times I wanted to quit. I stuck through college, even though there were several times I wanted to quit. And those words transformed me as a young lady. And that's why I have to work with these young women and providing that service to be their personal improvement and motivation partner, because they were mine. They just didn't know it. I didn't know it at the time. And I absolutely love like the fact that I was able to go through school the way I went through school, because yes, it might have been hard, but I'm standing here now saying that God used education to teach me how to come out of my box. The old me was a behind the scenes person. That football manager me, I was doing all the stuff behind the scenes. Like I like when people ask me, oh, or they might say, I need to do this. And I'll be like, it's already done. I already did it. It's over there. I love doing that, but now God has taken me out of my comfort zone and be putting me in front of a camera. So in this show, I plan to work with deaf individuals. I plan to work with Spanish speaking individuals. I plan to work with Black individuals who and LGBT. Like I plan to work with all those groups that are often deemed as minorities or marginalized or whatever, or undesirable, whatever. I don't care what they call us. I know that if we work together, we don't need to worry about what they're calling us, because we're going to be the change that we've been waiting on them to be for us. So this is the moment for us to step in our purpose as a unit. So recently, I was blessed with so many opportunities to meet so many people, and I hope you're watching. And if not, and you have the opportunity to watch later, I really appreciate you for showing up. If we met at Invest Fest back in August 2023, and if we met at Woman Evolve 2023, and 2022, if we met at the networking event at Black Wall Street, New Black Wall Street and Stonecrest, because I've been blessed with the opportunity to meet so many people who are monumental for this journey that I'm on. And I would love to partner with you and in my business. But this right here, I'm so grateful for WCEG Talk Radio, allowing me to walk in my purpose as a multilingual intergenerational global community liaison, so that we can have those conversations that actually make a difference, because it's time. What are we waiting for? I honestly have no idea how much time has passed. They only gave me an hour, so I figured I'd get it out. And I wanted to at least go into more about my education until they cut me off. So I started school at Yeager Middle School, and Thank you. I started school at Jaeger Middle School, and well, I'm not going to tell you how old I actually am. And then that's where I started learning Spanish. And when I went to high school at Douglas County High School, I started learning. That's when I started learning French at school. But on Saturdays, like I told y'all, I did not want to be home, so I would spend time at the public library learning sign language. And I had amazing teachers that were cool friends, and they just happened to be a part of my church that I grew up in. So there were two churches that I grew up in. I'll get into those in just a moment. So one moment. So I went to Douglas County High School, and I learned French at school, but I also in the public library, I started learning sign language. And so when I started learning sign language and French and Spanish at the same time, my brain just kept struggling to translate because I kept trying to go back to English. But then when I found out that American Sign Language comes from French Sign Language, and the reasoning why with Gallaudet going over to Britain and trying to learn English Sign Language, and they did not want that to happen because, well, it was a little bit after the revolution and everything. So they pushed them on to France. I'm paraphrasing this a bit because I've learned it a few times, but go look it up on gallaudet.edu. Um, but he went over to France and worked at a school for the deaf in France to learn sign language with Laurent Clerc. And they taught him sign language, and he brought it back to teach his neighbor, Alice. And when he was teaching his neighbor, it was more French Sign Language then, but over time through Martha's Vineyard, they were about 1/4% of the population was deaf, and so the whole population used sign language. And it's just if we could bring something like that back on a bigger platform, it would do so much, not only for the deaf community, but it would help parents and their kids be able to effectively communicate with each other. So they can feel like they can trust their parents to have those hard conversations. I couldn't tell my parents that I was being bullied because, well, I was being bullied by people that they knew. And it was really hard for me to be able to trust anybody in my life at that point. And that's when those languages allowed me to make friends and allowed me to feel safe. And if we can't do anything for this next generation but make them feel safe, we may have done enough. Because if we can make this next generation feel safe, yes, I know they have all the TikTok and all of the short form content, and their attention span is a lot lower than we're used to. That's fine. If we can make them feel safe with not only their parents, but the other adults in their life so that they have someone they can trust. And not all the times a therapist is someone who's been professionally trained, but sometimes it's a person who is a good listener and ask the right questions. And when they ask those questions, they make it to where you can find the solution yourself. Because recently, when I was at Woman Involved, they said something along the lines of the answer is already in you. You just need the right person to ask the question that'll bring it out. So we need our kids to be able to feel safe around the adults in their lives so that if something is happening, we can prevent the problem before it becomes bigger, before we have to help them heal from their trauma. So coming from someone who's experienced trauma, one thing I would love to do is to make sure that we remove a lot of traumatic experiences. Yes, ma'am. I see a hello. I'm asking. So my boss is talking to me. Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. I I was talking about how it's important for us to make this next generation feel safe, and it's important for us to be the change, as they say, but not only for making them feel safe, but to be the change in our environment. That's why you always see me in green, because the trees, we need our trees, and so many of them are cut down so that we can build to match the need of the housing situations and to match whatever it is that we are trying to build, but we're tearing down earth. And in the process, we're putting trash into our oceans, and we can't have conversations that will actually have impact until we break those communication barriers. And so learning these languages allowed me to feel safe, but it also allowed me to connect with other people in different communities, so that we can become friends, so that we can have those conversations that may have been difficult before, so that we can also travel with ease. Like when we go to a Spanish speaking country, knowing the bare minimum of Spanish can help save a life, but it can also help enhance your experience and make you want to travel more. We need to get our kids, especially our kids that are in the barrios in well, I'm not gonna say I grew up in the hood, but my friends live there. So I want to make sure those communities that aren't often given those resources, if you give them sign language and Spanish, it opened up so many doors for me. I'm saying that it may open up more doors for us to have those conversations. And I've never really had to struggle to find a job. So giving especially Black and brown kids the opportunity to, especially deaf kids as well, the opportunity to have options when they go to apply for a job and become an asset to the team, so that if they leave, the team lost out on them, but not they lost out on the team. Yes, there's stuff that they can learn there, but also I want them to walk in their purpose. And my goal is for more people to learn Spanish and sign language, specifically because those help me, because I use Spanish at least 5 days a week. And pretty much anytime I leave my house, I'm probably going to use Spanish. I use sign language almost as much as that. I speak French, but I don't really get to use it as often. I'm here in Atlanta, so it's a lot of Spanish speakers here. It's a large deaf community here. And I want more people who look like me to be multilingual, because not only does it open up opportunities and let them effectively communicate with their families, but it provides access, which is the utmost important of all of the things that I'm talking about. It provides access for the people in their communities to connect with them. And what good is it for you to learn a language if you don't use it? So that's why I teach parents how to raise multilingual kids. I no longer teach sign language and Spanish, because, well, you can go on YouTube and you can learn that from pretty much anywhere you Google how to speak Spanish. I teach them how to apply what they've learned to their everyday life, so that it becomes natural, so that when they go out and they meet a deaf person, or they go out and they meet a Spanish speaker, or if you learn in French or Yoruba, you go out and you meet someone, you have the skills you need to confidently address that conversation and make a friend out of it. And you never know, there might be someone who needs your business, but does not speak your language. So when you add that multilingual aspect to your business, you give them the opportunity to connect with you. And so I want you to understand that the world is changing. You might as well change with it. Yes, AI can do a lot. AI can do a lot of things. AI is very helpful, but it's those relationships we build with people that help us to connect with a brand. And so if your business is a need for someone and they don't use they don't use your language, and they might use sign language, or they might use Spanish or French or Russian or whatever language they might use, and they cannot connect with your business, you miss out on a customer, but they miss out on a need. And so I work with business owners to help them match their needs to their target audience in the languages of their audience. I don't know all the languages, as I've already said, but I work with people who do know more languages. So this is an international movement, and I'm grateful to be in it. And a lot of people say, oh, it's too late for me to learn sign language. It's too late for me to learn Spanish. It's too late for me to learn another language. Well, if they're talking to me, then they're probably not dead. And the only time it's too late for you to learn something is after you die. And so if you take this opportunity to spend more time to learn another language, yes, it may be hard, but if you practice and you use those skills that help you apply it to your everyday life in your house. Oh, how do I say this? ¿Cómo se dice? How do I sign that? Like, if you actually practice it, it's not too hard for you to learn it, because you spend time developing your skills. As with anything, it takes time for you to get better at it. So I work with people who are young and people who are old so that they can get the confidence to learn a new language as well. I actually have a few older students than now than I have before. I have over 200 alumni, and most of those alumni are between the ages, well, they were 3 months and to 14, no, 13 years old. One turned 14 after I was done with them, but they were between those ages, and it made a difference for them. And it was so easy for the babies to learn. But when they didn't practice at home with their parents, they lost a lot of it. So my goal is for the parents and the kids to learn together and then use what they learn and make friends in their community so that they can have local impact that'll have a global change. So if you have any questions, please message me on Instagram at NSREV as in Victor IEWS LLC. That's the letter N, the letter S, the word reviews LLC on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and fan base as well. So I wanted to go into more about what to expect with this show. So I already told you I'm going to have multilingual intergenerational conversations, but we're going to talk about those world problems. Like my hosts don't really know what I'm asking them until that moment because we're going to have raw conversations. I'll give them a topic, but we're going to talk to them about different things. So if there's something that you feel is a problem that is with the world that we need to find a solution for, even if we don't find a solution, it helps for us to start having those conversations so that we can know that there's not really a solution for it. Drop a comment below this video on WCEG Talk Radio on YouTube so that I can come back and see what your questions are so I can know what to ask the next guest. Because we'll have guests who speak Spanish from different countries. We'll have guests who use sign language, and we'll have guests who are Black and who are Black women and Black men in business or just regular parents, because it's time for us to make that change. So we got to have these hard conversations. So I will really enjoy it if you at least tell me below what you think will be something important for us to talk about in the next video or video series this season. I am Enesse with Enesse Reviews, but I'm also hosting Multilingual Intergenerational Conversations on WCEG Talk Radio. And I am so excited for what's coming this season. We have so many people. Okay, so we only have 7 episodes left for this season, and that's fine because those 7 conversations, they're going to spark change because we're going to not only connect with our audience, but we're connecting with their audience because it's people they know that I have been waiting my whole life to meet, and it's people that I know that that have been waiting their whole life to meet. So this is why we host different multilingual events for networking. Like even next week, we're going to be hosting a neighborhood event at the artist shop so that we can connect with the people in our neighborhood. Because yes, you can get on a Facebook group and join Gwinnett families or Gwinnett whatever. But if you don't really spend time with the people in your neighborhood, how do you know who's there? How do you build with the people that's building around you and build something bigger if you don't know who's building and what they're building? So we got business owners in our neighborhoods. We got young ladies in our neighborhood that are transitioning out of high school, going into the real world. We got families that are in our neighborhoods who just want their kids to feel safe. And so that's why we're hosting this event next week on September 30th at the artist shop to meet our neighbors. It's a get to know the neighbors event. And I'm so excited that if you live in Gwinnett County, Snellville, whatever in this Gwinnett County area, please come in and meet us so that we can meet you so that one day we might be talking to you on here. All of my episodes will not be just me. I just figured today I give you the rawest version of me. So I was thinking, I asked my husband, I was like, should I wear a wig? What should I wear? And then he told me to just be myself. And I know that's generic, cliche advice, but it worked because this is my hair. And in future videos, you probably won't see it. But this is me. Like, it took me a long time to love myself. So now I'm at the point where I'm going to confidently move as who I am in the season and as I'm becoming the best next version of myself, or the next best version of myself. No, I said it backward. best next version of myself, because I don't want to be the second best version of me. I want to be the best version of me, becoming the next best version of me as well. So this hat is from Rich Goddess. I love this hat. It's from the Vacay Cowboys collection. I met her at Invest Best, and this hat has been a tool that God used to change my life. Because if you see me out and I'm wearing this green shirt and this orange hat, is because well, first of all, it pops on my skin because I mean, hashtag melanin, but also this hat gives me the opportunity to stand out. So when it's events and people can't see someone who's 5'1" wearing black or brown clothes, this this hat may be all they notice about me at first until we have a conversation. And so I was literally at Invest Fest bumping into millionaires who were just walking in the same direction as me. And I plan to work with them in the future in some sort of fashion, like even if it's not a business thing, even if I'm learning from them. I like to say that I'm a lifelong student because I choose to learn from the people around me. And so it's more so a partnership. Everything I do with anyone else is a partnership to me, because even if you're my student, you can teach me something. I have an awesome student. I've been working with her since 2020, since October 2020. So now we're coming up on 3 years. Um, I'm not accepting any more sign language and Spanish students, but because I started something with her, I have to cultivate it. And this, people ask me, why don't I teach sign language and Spanish anymore? I'm gonna talk about the student and then I'll talk about that. So this student was a game changer for me. I've worked with, like I said, over 200 kids, and they were all awesome. I love them because I learned from them what works and what does not work. And so the program I wrote, the curriculum I wrote was multilingual, and I was supposed to be their sign language teacher, but when I got hired, they didn't know I also knew Spanish. So they had a Spanish teacher, but all of my sign language classes reinforced what they were learning in Spanish. So yes, I may have been teaching them sign language at that point, but now I, I started teaching our lessons in Spanish. So yes, they want to connect with the sign language, but I used the Spanish that they were already learning to help them connect with the sign language without it being this is how you say it in English, but this is what it looks like in sign language, because that's not going to teach them the true meaning of ASL, like usage. ASL is about the concept, portraying the concept, using your space to and your signs to communicate the point. You have to draw the big picture. And so the student I'm talking about, she has done a phenomenal job in these last 3 years at making progress. She was 5 years old when we started. Yeah, she was 5 years old when we started. And now, just in these 3 years of watching her grow as a student, she knows how to conjugate in Spanish, which is one of the hardest things to learn. But once you learn it, the rest of Spanish is yours. I mean, it's really just patterns. So it's I committed to being her teacher, so I'm still going to teach her. But my future students, I would love to direct them to a deaf teacher for their language. And this is why I stopped teaching sign language, because when I teach sign language, it is taking away the opportunity for a deaf person who uses this language every day to survive and navigate our hearing world. It gives them the opportunity to make money doing something that they do naturally, that's them, they get to be themselves in. So as who I am now, I am still, like I said, a lifelong learner. I learn from any conversation I have with a Spanish speaker. I learn from any conversation I have with a deaf person, even French, even like whatever. I try to learn from every single conversation I have with someone else. And so I am grateful for the opportunity to have that opportunity, because it's not something that is hard. You can learn how to do this. So with this student and teaching her sign language, I will continue with her because I'm a woman of my word. But with the future people I plan to work with, it's a 3-part curriculum. I will work with a Spanish teacher. Her name is Ramona. She doesn't know it yet. I haven't asked her yet, but I'm gonna ask her. She's a host on our bilingual place on WCEG Talk Radio. If she has availability to help me teach this course that I wrote, In the Spanish part, I definitely would love to partner with her. I'm asking on camera so that I can send her to this video and have her say yes or no. And then also check out her show, Our Bilingual Place. She's having those bilingual conversations with world changers as well. And then I want to work with a deaf instructor to teach ASL, because if anything, it's not about the money for me. It's about being able to get access to the deaf community. And what better way to do that than to have a deaf person introduce you to their language and teach you about it, so that you can get the confidence from the ground up to sign with a native signer. And then, so what I do is I close out each lesson. So I teach you games. I teach you about the cultural and linguistic aspects, so that you're not just learning signs and Spanish vocabulario, so that you're not just learning vocabulary, so that you're learning how to properly use it and to apply it to your everyday life, even if it's just around your house, just around your community, until you reach that point of, oh my gosh, they need help in Spanish. Oh my gosh, they need help in sign language. And I've been preparing for this moment so that you can step up confidently, so that they can have access to whatever it is they need in that moment. And this doesn't make you an interpreter. This doesn't make you a translator. This just makes you a bridge. And that's what a lot of people who are hearing are trying to do, is to make bridges. So we also have, I'm reading a note, it's from WCEG Beyond the Border host, immigration attorney, Melanie Legrone of Legrone Law. I hope I said that right. So she is the host for Beyond the Border on WCEG Talk Radio with Melanie Legrone of Legrone Law. If I am saying that incorrectly, I'm going to go ahead and add it in the comments below this video on YouTube. So please come check it out and support businesses who, it doesn't matter what they're doing in the government to say these people can't be here or mistreating this specific group of people. We are going to work together to give each other the access we deserve to have. And that's why we have to have these multilingual intergenerational conversations. I would like to give you the opportunity to take a minute and subscribe to my Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn and fan base at NSREV as in Victor, IEWS LLC. But also, I want you to subscribe to WCEG Talk Radio, because they have a plethora of shows to match different audiences and different needs. They even have from Hollywood to the Barn House, or something similar to that. And that one is a very cool show where she moved from Hollywood to her family farm in Arkansas to keep it up, because after generations of it being in her family, it's her turn to take over it. And so she connects with the people she met all over the world and Hollywood to change the world, starting in her area. Beverly Hills to Barnyard. There you go. That's the name of the show. Beverly Hills to Barnyard. Check out that show. Check out Church Biz. That's one of my favorite shows on WCEG Talk Radio. There's also a boys side of this Millennial Talk too. So I know us millennials are getting older. We're getting into that 30, if we're not already there, getting into that 30 age range. And why do we have to wait to make the changes that need to be made? Because we witnessed so much change in our lifetime. It's time for us to give this next generation that beyond AI, beyond cell phones and what phone is doing this and what phone is not. Like, yeah, that's cool. But giving these kids the opportunity to have interpersonal relationships with the people around them by building trust so that they can have effective communication and those conversations, it's our time to step up. So also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the WCEG Talk Radio on Instagram, Facebook, the App Store, iOS App Store, Google Play, the Roku, we are on 12 podcasts, so we're probably on one of your favorite podcast platforms. And I am so excited to say thank you for watching my first episode of Millennial Talk 2.0. And I would love to see you. Well, I won't be able to see you. I would love it if you joined me on my next episode, which is going to be on October 7th at 11 a.m. I'm going to be talking with the host of Eminently, or the owner of Eminently You, and she's going to talk about the Garifuna people, which is her culture, but she's also a Black woman who speaks Spanish. So she understands what it's like when people assume you don't speak Spanish, but when they become delighted that you do. And so we're going to talk about what Eminently You is doing to change their local community here in Gwinnett County through the arts, mentoring through the arts. And I'm so excited to connect with her so that, well, actually, below this video, drop the questions that you want me to ask her. And if there are no questions, you're gonna make me make them up by myself and then watch the show. That doesn't even make sense. So you might as well watch the show and wait for the question that you ask, because I really would love to see your comments below. And while you're here, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, because they are actually changing the world through WCEG Talk Radio, because they're not afraid for us to have hard conversations. Like, she really didn't know I was going to be up here in sign language. She told me not to do it because it's going to be quiet, but I needed you to understand that as uncomfortable as hearing people get with silence on the radio, deaf people have to move, not specifically only through silence, but they have to move through with limited access to regular conversations that we're having. And I want you to understand the point of that it's not about you being uncomfortable. It's about making them more comfortable as well, so that we can continue to do, well, so that we can start doing better. I'm gonna take a breather. That was a lot, but feel free to comment below this video, like, comment, and subscribe, as they say on the YouTube. Also, my book anniversary is coming up. I don't know how much time I have left, but my book anniversary is coming up on October 18th. Please go to my website, NSR, that's NSR, LLC.biz, that's B as in boy that time. And I want you to order a copy of this book and give it to a young lady who is 18 to 24 or transitioning into motherhood, or someone who just needs to get their life together after experiencing trauma. Thank you so much for your time.